This is the Tom Bigby Tales, and I'm your host, Shannon Evans. I write about a small town in northeast Mississippi on the Tom Bigby River called Columbus, and sometimes I write about the rest of the state. This episode is about Aleck Leach, who was lynched in Lowndes County in a little community called Caledonia on June 26, 1884. In literature, sermons, and in news articles before and after Reconstruction, black males were portrayed as over-sexualized, predatory men who lived to prey on innocent white girls and women. Whites feared a loss of racial purity and miscegenation of their women. It was not an issue for the white man to father children with black women, but white females were only to produce white children. During Reconstruction Era, Mississippi's white population realized their second greatest fear. They were outnumbered by their former enslaved population. Freemen began to run for and win elected office at the local and state level. Then black elected officials in the Mississippi legislature began to propose and pass anti-miscegenation laws became codified in the state of Mississippi. One such law read, any person guilty of printing, publishing, or circulating matter urging or presenting arguments in favor of social equality or of intermarriage between whites and Negroes shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. This law and others were instituted to not only sanction miscegenation, but to end any radical idea of social equality by blacks. The 1870s saw the rise of social control by whites via Jim Crow laws. The battle cry of race purity and race degeneracy rang from not just political podiums, but also from the white pulpits of the South. Mississippi Democrats passed a law in 1876 prohibiting interracial marriage and deemed any child 1/8 Negro as colored for segregation purposes. This led to all southern states adopting their own anti-intermarriage codes. In the South, identity was connected to sexual and racial paranoia and the belief that people of color were inferior to whites. Therefore, racial purity was paramount to the continued success of society, and so Southern white men were duty-bound to be the protectors of sexual morality and would mete out swift justice to any black male who posed a threat. In 1880, a case before a court in Texas gained significant press coverage. A member of the jury declared himself unfit to serve the pending miscegenation case as he felt lynching was the only fitting punishment for any man, white or black, who committed the crime. During Reconstruction, South Carolina planter William Hayward claimed, "But I believe that God has ordered it all, and I am firmly of opinion that it is the judgment of the Almighty because the human and brute blood have mingled to the degree it has in the slave states." Stories circulated of fathers hunting down and murdering their daughters who ran away to northern or western states to marry black lovers. White men and women saw miscegenation as a threat to a white-dominated society and their pure bloodlines. But miscegenation was also weaponized in the early 1880s. The economic depression that gripped the South made blacks easy targets for the South's financial woes. Successful or seemingly successful land-owning blacks were despised by whites. Their success was seen as an insult and an affront to white landowners. It was widely held by white Southerners that black men only wanted equality for the purpose of miscegenation and having unfettered access to white women. Because of this environment, more than one black man in Mississippi was unfairly targeted as a racist or sexual predator in order to disenfranchise him and take his land. It is this environment of hate and fear of early post-Reconstruction era in Lowndes County where Aleck Leach is lynched in Caledonia in 1884. Leach, a 38-year-old land-owning farmer, allegedly had made disparaging remarks about more than one white woman. Leach was taken by a group of white men and summarily lynched. His body was then riddled with bullets. Little is known about Leach, and the paper trail is almost non-existent. There is an Aleck Leach in the 1880 census listed as born about 1847. He is age 33 in 1880, and his wife, Martha, is listed as age 45. Alex is listed as a farmer in Caledonia and his wife as a cook. They are both listed as illiterate. There are no children listed in the home. after the 1880 census. There's no evidence of his wife in local census collections after his death. No record is found of his burial except that the county board of supervisors paid an undertaker $2.50 for his pine box and burial. The location of the burial is not recorded in the supervisor book of that year. Not much is written about the details surrounding the event. However, the story was covered around the country through July of 1884 as a short snippet of a 1 to 2 sensationalized sentences. Near Caledonia, Mississippi, a few days ago, Aleck Leach, colored, was hanged by a body of lynchers and his body riddled with bullets. Leach had made disparaging remarks about several respectable white ladies. Boulevard Bulletin, Boulevard, Tennessee, 10 July, 1884. For slandering several white women near Caledonia, Mississippi, Aleck Leach, a colored man, was hanged and his body riddled with bullets by a number of lynchers. The Rocket, Raleigh, North Carolina, 31 July, 1884. Leach's lynching was covered as far north as the Rutland Daily Herald in Rutland, Vermont, Altoona Times in Altoona, Pennsylvania, the Courier News in Bridgewater, New Jersey, and the Buffalo Commercial in Buffalo, New York. In the Midwest by papers like the Herald and Review of Decatur, Illinois, the Evening Tribune of Lawrence, Kansas, and the St. Louis Globe-Democrat in St. Louis, Missouri. It was surprisingly not as widely covered in the southern states. It was covered by the Livingston Journal in Livingston, Alabama, the St. Landry Democrat in Opelousas, Louisiana, the Rocket in Rockingham, North Carolina, the Boulevard Bulletin in Boulevard, Tennessee, and the Carolina Mountaineer in Morgantown, North Carolina. In Mississippi, there were only a few mentions: the Grenada Sentinel of Grenada, Mississippi, and the Magnolia Gazette of Magnolia, Mississippi. It's interesting to note that no mention can be found in the Lowndes County newspapers of that time. We don't know what happened to Aleck Leach. His burial site is, to this day, not recorded in Find a Grave or any other places that we can find. It's certainly not in any news articles. If anyone knows where Aleck Leach is buried, I would love to know. And if there are any descendants or relatives still living who can trace their lineage back to Aleck Leach and his family, I'd love to hear from you. Until next time.